Jane Carter had always been the good one. At 20 years old, she was studying sociology at Goldsmiths, University of London, lived at home in Croydon to save on rent, and helped her younger brother with his GCSEs every weekend. Her father, Martin Carter, a logistics manager for a small freight company in Surrey, had raised her with old-fashioned values: honesty, responsibility, and respect for family name. He wasn't harsh, but he expected integrity. And for years Jane had delivered. But university life had pressures he didn't see. The late-night study groups that turned into pub crawls. The online betting app she downloaded during lockdown just for fun, that had quietly spiraled into a £1,800 debt. She'd hidden it well, until she couldn't. 2 days ago, her father had handed her a signed business check for £2,500. Client payment, he'd said over breakfast, sipping his builder's tea. Pop it into NatWest before 3 p.m. You're the only one I trust with this. She'd nodded, tucked the checkbook into her tote bag, and kissed him on the cheek. Instead of the bank, she'd gone to a back alley meetup near East Croydon Station, handed the check to Liam, a smug third year she barely knew, and watched him deposit it into his account, deducting her debt plus interest. She told herself she'd replace the money before her father noticed. She just needed time. But time ran out faster than she expected. Sunday lunch at the Carters' semi-detached home on Beulah Hill was a weekly ritual. Roast beef, Yorkshire puddings, steamed greens, and the kind of awkward small talk only British families excel at. Today, Aunt Carol and Uncle Derek had driven down from Manchester with their daughter Priya, Jane's sharp-eyed cousin who worked in corporate compliance and never missed a detail. Jane had dressed carefully. A soft pink A-line midi skirt from In Other Stories, a crisp white blouse, and tan ankle boots. Her hair was pulled into a low ponytail, though a few strands already clung to her damp temples. She kept her phone face down on the table, her smile tight. "Jane's doing so well at uni," Aunt Carol said, passing the gravy. "Martin, you must be so proud." Martin beamed. "She's got her head screwed on right. Unlike some I could mention." He winked at Priya, who rolled her eyes good-naturedly. "Actually," Priya said, cutting a slice of beef, "I saw Jane near that new betting shop on George Street yesterday. Looked like she was meeting someone." The room went still. Jane's fork clattered against her plate. Martin turned slowly. "Is that right, love?" Her throat tightened. I just walked past. On my way to the library." "Funny," Priya said lightly, "because you were handing over an envelope. Looked official." Martin's expression shifted. From pride to confusion, then suspicion. "Jane, did you deposit that check?" She swallowed. "Yes. Right after lunch. Like you asked." He studied her, the trembling hands, the two bright eyes. "Look me in the eye and say it again." She couldn't. The silence stretched. Rain began to patter against the bay window. Finally, in a whisper, I used it. To pay off a debt." "A debt?" Martin's voice was dangerously calm. "I gambled, Dad. I didn't mean to. It started small, but I got in too deep. I was going to fix it. I swear." Aunt Carol gasped. Uncle Derek cleared his throat and stood. "We should probably stay," Martin said, not taking his eyes off Jane. "Family stays." He pushed his chair back. "Come with me." Martin closed the dining room door softly behind them, but didn't shut it all the way, just enough to give the illusion of privacy while ensuring the message carried. Jane stood frozen in the hallway. her pink skirt swaying slightly as her breath came in shallow gasps. The scent of roast beef and Yorkshire pudding still lingered in the air, a cruel contrast to the tension thickening around them. "It's not about the money, Jane," he interrupted, stepping closer. "It's about the lie." His words landed like stones. She flinched. He turned and opened the narrow drawer beneath the telephone stand, the one that held spare keys, old utility bills, and at the very back the wooden hairbrush. It wasn't fancy. Dark-stained oak, smooth from years of use, with stiff bristles and a worn leather strap tied around the handle. Jane remembered it from childhood. Not often used, but always present, like a silent reminder of boundaries. Her stomach clenched. "Please. Not like this. Not in front of them." He held the brush in one hand, its weight familiar. "Bend over the chair. Hands on the seat." The same one they used for taking off shoes. Her pink skirt pulled tight across her backside, the fabric thin, offering no real barrier. She gripped the edge of the seat, knuckles white. Martin stood behind her, silent for a long moment. She could feel his presence, solid, grieving, resolute. "This is not because I don't love you," he said quietly. "It's because I do. And because I refuse to let you become someone who thinks lies have no cost." Then the first stroke fell. Thwack. It wasn't brutal, but it was sharp, deliberate, and unmistakable. Jane gasped, her body jerking forward. The sting bloomed instantly, hot and humiliating. "Two," he said, and struck again, firmer this time, landing just below the first. She cried out, tears spilling over. "Three, for gambling like it was a game when real lives are at stake." Thwack. She sobbed now, shoulders shaking. "I didn't mean to, for lying to my face." Thwack. "5, for making me doubt everything I believed about you." Thwack. She was weeping openly, her face pressed into her forearm. From the dining room there was no sound, but she knew they were listening. That silence was worse than any comment. 6, Martin said, voice thick with emotion. "For breaking this family's trust in front of people who look up to you." The final stroke landed with controlled force. Not cruel, but final. He set the brush down on the console table. Then gently he placed a hand on her back. "Stand up, Jane." She rose slowly, legs unsteady, cheeks streaked with tears. Her blouse was rumpled, her ponytail half undone, strands sticking to her damp face. She wouldn't look at him, but he cupped her chin and lifted it until their eyes met. His own were glistening. "I love you," he said, voice rough. "But you have to understand. Trust isn't given twice. You earn it back with truth every single day." He squeezed her shoulder once, then nodded toward the stairs. "Go wash your face. Then we'll talk about getting you proper help." She nodded, mute, and climbed the stairs with slow, heavy steps, each one echoing in the quiet hallway, carrying the weight of what had just passed between father and daughter in the heart of their British home. Upstairs, Jane locked her bedroom door and sank onto her bed. Rain streaked the window, blurring the view of the suburban street below. Neat hedges, parked Vauxhalls, the distant hum of the tram. Her back stung, but the deeper ache was in her chest. She hadn't just lost money. She'd lost her father's belief in her. Downstairs, Martin returned to the dining room. Aunt Carol stood to leave, her coat already on. "Martin, are you all right?" He nodded, though his hands shook as he poured himself a whiskey. "She's got a problem. And I didn't see it." "She's young," Uncle Derek said gently. "Mistakes happen." "But not lies like this," Martin replied. "Not in this house." Later, after the relatives left, he sat alone in the darkened kitchen. On the table lay the check. Stub pound 500 gone. But worse was the photo on the fridge. Jane at 16 grinning in her school blazer, holding a certificate for most responsible student. He picked up his phone and searched, Gambling Addiction Support London. He bookmarked 3 helplines. Upstairs, Jane stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were red, her makeup smudged. She opened her laptop, typed Gamcare into the browser, and clicked live chat. No words were exchanged between father and daughter that night. But in the quiet of their separate rooms, both took the first step, not toward forgiveness but toward repair. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Trust, once broken in a British household where reputation and word still mattered, was harder to rebuild than a shattered vase. But in that rainy Croydon evening, beneath the weight of shame and love, the mending had begun. Not with shouting but with silence, with searching, with the courage to face what they'd both ignored. And sometimes in families like theirs that was enough to start.